In this portion of the tape, we're going to trap off two reference points, the high and the low. Now, when we get an attachment here, like this is called an engagement. We must disengage Paul's arm before we can move in on him. Now, we disengage the arm with what's known as a poxal or a slap hand. We come here and we trap the lower portion of his forearm. You do not want to trap the upper portion because then he can bend the elbow and he can counter you. Now, when we're here, our rear hand will trap and immobilize this hand, and there will be no parry from the partner here. So we trap and we hit. We come back to this reference point again, we trap and hit again. And once again, the poxal with the slap hand, trap and hit. Now, if we can do it from the high line, obviously we can do it from the low line. So we begin in this reference point and do the same thing. We trap again on the lower part of the forearm. 1, this comes up, 2. We are here, 1, 2, and again, bam, you're in here. Sometimes after you have trapped the first barrier, a secondary barrier may occur, meaning you have trapped his first arm, but then he may block with his second. Now, when the man parries in this particular sequence, he does not push his hand too far across center line. He does not push his hand across his body. He gives, as a boxer would, a slight parry, but he does not push over. Now, this is very important. It's important that your partner feeds you the correct energy. If he doesn't feed you the correct energy, you cannot do the technique. Now, when we go here, I've trapped and immobilized this barrier, but Paul sees it coming and he parries with his left hand or his rear hand here. So when I trap, I come against another barrier. So what I must do is disengage this engagement by trapping and hitting again. So in the first sequence, we trapped the outside of the arm. Now we trap the inside of the arm and we've tied both hands up once more. Now, obviously, if you can do it once more from the high line, we can do it again from the low line. So when we trap, Paul parries, we trap and again. We trap and again. Each time we trap, this constitutes one beat, meaning if I pox out Paul, this is one beat. Now if Paul parries the second, this will constitute 2 beats. Now we insert what are known as half beats, which could be the headbutt, the knee, or as in this case, we're going to use the hand. Now, when we come here, we trap, and just before we trap again, we hit with the left hand and trap and hit with the right. We'll go again, 1, 2, half, 3, again. Now, what is important in trapping is the rhythm. So you should not trap in a 1, 2, 3 manner for this particular technique. It should be a 1, half, and then 2. Now we go from the low reference point again. Again, we're doing the same technique. Trap and backhand. We insert the left hand, we trap and hit again. Now, we go once more, trap, backhand, he is parried, insert the left hand, trap and pin both hands again. Once we have trapped the first barrier and the person has responded, he may not give you inside centerline energy, meaning he may not stay within his own centerline. He may push across. If he does this, we cannot do the 3 techniques that we have just shown, for the simple reason it lacks economy of motion. And in trapping, we must economize each motion and make it as economical as possible. Now, when we trap here, we use the same entry we did on the last 3. We poxal, but this time when I poxal, Paul crosses centerline. Going to cross here. Now we use what is known as a lopsal or a pull hand. My left hand comes up to his wrist, and at the same time as it pulls his arm across his body, there's rolls and hits the head. And then I trap down and come in. Once again, I trap, roll, and hit. And one more time. You poxal, he is overextended. You can feel this go across. This grabs, it will roll and hit. And at the same time, just as you hit, you pin both arms and go in. Now we do this from the low reference point at the same time. From here, we trap. He is going across center line. You come up and grab with your left hand, and at the same time roll and hit. We trap and hit once again. And he will push, he does not push out, he pushes slightly to this side. So when I trap and he pushes over, roll, hit. One more time. After we have trapped the front hand barrier and the man gives his rear hand overextended energy, then we go into what's known as a lopsal, as we just have. But when he pushes slightly out the way, it's not possible to do a lopsal. It's inappropriate. So when we do this, we trap again with a poxal on the first barrier. We trap. He pushes slightly out, and your left hand shoots in what they call a bilgi, or a finger thrust here. When you have this, you just have another reference point which you can work from. So we trap on the lower hand portion of his arm here with what's known as a poxal again, punch, and trap again. Again, it's very important he gives the correct energy. If he pushes across his body, you would lopsal and follow his energy. If he pushes slightly out, it's a lot harder to lopsal, so you're better going straight forward, which is what we're doing. So when we poxal here, this is a trigger response. I'm aiming for his eyes, but it just hasn't got there. We've gained another reference point. So you must get rid of this engagement. We trap and trap again. So once more. In, hit, and hit again. Now, we go from the low reference point the same way. We trap and hit, eye jab, trap and hit, and again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're back. Once more. Usually when you get an attachment or come across a barrier, you will trap that barrier and go forward. But sometimes you will go around the barrier, which is what we're going to do now in what's called a jiao. So when we try for the poxal, we cannot quite get in or reach the head. So rather than trying to push our way in that way, we take another route. We disengage and try and pop the ear, or if we're going in a low line, we will pop the groin. So when we're here, we have tried to get in, but it hasn't quite worked. Now, when I come round, I take a large disengagement and pop the ear here. Sometimes it will pull and then punch in the face. Or when we go in the low line, you will come down, you will hit the groin and come back up and hit the head. But we're presupposing that the man has given us a secondary barrier. When he gives us this secondary barrier, we pull with our right hand back like this. This is known as a jut sal, or pulling hand this way. Yeah? So when we come, we trap, pull and hit, and trap and hit. So once again, we come round. It's a large disengagement. I try and pop the ear, but I feel his two hands here. So one pulls, the right hand pulls, and the left punches, trapping his right hand. And again. In our last technique, we used what's known as a hoon sal, which means large disengagement, meaning when we got attached to the front hand barrier, we went the long way around to try and hit his head. Now, when we attach once more, we use what's known as a hoon sal, which means small disengagement, which means you circle around the front hand barrier and then attempt to hit him in the face. So, when we engage on this front hand barrier once more, you may have pog sal, but you still get this cohesion and you can't get through. Then we hoon sal, we take our hand and we do a small circle and hit the head. Now he won't give me a barrier and this will just hit. So we go 1, 2. Now what will happen here is, like, obviously he's going to protect himself, so he will push across center line because my hand is across his center line already. So to defend himself he must push over. So when he does this, we go back into this position with the Bill G, which is one of the positions we had before. We're back to the same reference point. When we attach on this reference point, we trap down, we trap again. So once more, 1, this slips in here, we trap and hit, we trap and hit again. Last time, 1, in summary, I'd like to show the techniques that we've just done from a higher reference point. When we came here, the first technique we did was called a pog sal, in which we trap the hand and we punch the face. Then Paul gave me a secondary barrier in which he did not cross center line. When he does this, I trap again and I move in. The third technique we did was a pog sal, half beat pog sal, meaning we add an insertion, which could be the knee, the headbutt, or as in the case of this tape, we're using the hand. Boom, and we came in here. Now when Paul crosses center line like this, we did what's known as a lob sal, a pull hand. So we trapped, moved in, and then trapped again. Then when Paul doesn't give me a cross energy quite like this, he kind of pushes out the way, this is the time for us to insert a Bill G or a punch. So when we trap, boom, hit, and hit again. Sometimes when we come up against the front hand barrier, we cannot quite get past it, we cannot trap it, so we have to disengage and go to another line. When we did this the first time, we got here, we could not get past this barrier, so we used what's known as a jow sal, in which we were going to pop the ear, bang, like this, or pop the groin, and then come back up. But if he gives us another barrier, this is when we shoot in here and trap back. Now, then we use what's known as a hoon sal, which means small disengagement. So we cannot get past this barrier. So we disengage that line, push, and then go in. Then when Paul gives me the secondary barrier, boom, this goes in, and this is the same as the reference point we had before. Trap, hit, and trap. This concludes the John Fan portion of this tape.